welcome to the deep breath. I'm going to do today the Gilotrif Bottle 2 recap, which is to say, empty bottle, bottle number 2, done, ready for the trash pile. The third bottle started this morning, actually, yesterday. Yeah, new bottle, full of pills. See them in here. They're blue and no sleight of hand there. 2 completely separate bottles, empty, full. Okay, so 40 milligrams maximum dose. Still taking it. Still happy to be taking it. A few things to discuss. One, I am no longer taking the minocycline. Haven't been for quite a while now. In fact, only one pill left from my first dose of this. I got a second refill on this, but have not taken it. So I did 29 days of minocycline, basically, before calling it on that one. And it's been difficult in some respects in not taking the minocycline, because that is what kept my rash a little more under control, supposedly. That was the reason for this pill. And I decided to stop taking it because I was experiencing a lot of joint stiffness and pain, which took arguably a couple weeks to go away after I stopped taking that. I wasn't sure at first if the joint stiffness and pain was more because of the Gilotrif, the fat nib, or if it was because of minocycline. I was having issues where just raising my arms, this one's still sore, even though it's been a long time since I stopped taking that stuff. But again, that's the minocycline supposedly affects your joints more. It's not about the muscles as much. So, my joints feeling much better. A lot more flexibility and maneuverability in these than there had been. My feet a lot less impacted as well, not as much pain there. But what that leaves me dealing with mostly are the side effects of the diarrhea, which doesn't affect me that badly, and in fact I wouldn't even call it diarrhea most of the time. I call it just loose stool, sometimes watery stool, but it varies day to day. It has had almost no impact on my days, and I do not take the Imodium for it. I've I think 3 times now total, twice in the first week that I took it, or 2 weeks, just as a preemptive measure. And then I took one again recently, again as a preemptive thing, just because I knew I was going to be out and about and didn't want to have any issues to deal with. But that said, there are days when it's almost normal, and there are days when it's very watery. There are days when I have a little more control than others in terms of how long it's going to take me before I have to go. But by and large, it's been very manageable and something I can deal with, and I'm happy to, as long as this stuff ends up to be working, which I'm still a good month away from finding out. And the other thing, and the thing that impacts me the most, if you're going to say anything's impacting me, is the rash. And the reason that this is an issue isn't because I care so much about looking like I'm not washing my face enough or something. I don't think there's a situation that's arisen yet where people look at me and they're like, oh my God, you're so dirty, or oh my gosh, should I be afraid of catching something from you? That hasn't really been something that I've seen as an issue. I'm not particularly self-conscious about it when I go out, although I am aware of it mostly when I look in the mirror and I can see up close that I have, whiteheads ready to erupt all over my face. The bigger issue for me really isn't even how it looks cosmetically, it's how dry the skin is and how it feels, particularly on my scalp. Now for my face, since stopping the minocycline, I got a real serious outbreak. I'm going to try and get a little closer here so that maybe there's some chance of it showing up a little on camera. It's not very obvious and clear most of the time, but as I get closer in here, you'll see that this side is not looking quite as bad as this side, because I'm not treating this right now with anything in particular, but I'm using this, which is mupirocin or something. I'm not quite sure how to pronounce that, but it's a antibiotic gel that is specifically for dealing with this kind of acne-related rash. Your typical neosporins and polysporins, bacitracins, they're going to be great for open wounds, but they're not really going to affect the bacteria that cause acne. So you can see, since I started using this on my forehead and on my right cheek and my nose a bit, the rash has actually calmed down quite a bit in the last few days. This side, on the other hand, is still very much like it was last Friday before I started doing the impact. And it's hard to tell in this video, I think, what the actual relation is. But just imagine this is basically covering my body. So I'm covered in this. It doesn't normally bother me at all. And like I said, the face, I don't really feel it so much. I actually feel it a little more with this because it's gooey, and it's a little irritating in that regard, in that it makes me want to, move it, and then I scratch and whatever. So the skin problem, I'm trying to figure out ways to deal with it that don't involve a pill. I am going to go see my general practitioner and a dermatologist about other alternatives that I might attempt to rein this in beyond just doing the antibiotic, which I can go back onto, but don't want to because I don't want to be affected in that same way with my joints. But the bigger issue again is the scalp being so dry. Now, I probably don't look like I've lost a lot of hair since the last video update I did, but I am certain that I have. I'm using this as a black reference. I'm going to just do the old dandruff test. The other day I was wearing a black t-shirt and I took some pictures, and I'm going to post some of these with an article I'm going to write for publishing hopefully in the next couple of days. But the point is that the dry and flaky skin and whatever, it was raining down on me. Like I would get into the Guinness Book of World Records for sheer volume of dandruff flakes on my clothes, and wearing the black t-shirt really showed it off. Now since I wore that, I've been trying really hard not to scratch my head and do these things that I had been doing, but I'm going to do it right now just so I can see what comes onto this shiny black piece of paper here in front of me, and also to kind of illustrate the amount of it's just coming out, and hair is coming down and everything too. Whenever I do this, whenever I just run my fingers through here, it's kind of crazy how much just comes out. And I'm not sure, is this this amount of hair that's coming down, is it because of the medication? Typically people lose hair while going through cancer treatment. It's not a big surprise. But I suspect it has a lot more to do with the sheer level of itchiness and dry scalpiness and so forth that we have here. So I'm going to try and showcase some of the level of the hair on this. So it's a lot. It's a lot. Anyway, just as a thing there, all that black speckling, I'm going to scoop some of this together and take another brief look at it. in here, so you can kind of get a sense of what is being looked at. You can see that the hair and the dry skin and everything, and just as a comparison from before, and that's just a little bit. It's been far worse in the last few days than it is even here. Then it accumulates, over time. That small amount that I just did, that would, happen consistently through the day. I would be able to, anytime I scratch my head, I'd get a similar amount of that to come off. And so you can just imagine my shirt was littered with this stuff. And so now I'm making a concerted effort to stop. But it's hard because I can feel that these same blemishes that are on my skin are up here on my head as well. And as they dry out, they leave behind dead skin and a little hard center sometimes that's just dry, and I find like I'm picking up like pieces of sand here. So that's it. That's the most difficult thing, and I'm mitigating everything else really well. I use lots of lotions. I put a lot of oil in my hair. Different kinds of fancy oils. No essential oils, because those are more active and bioavailable kinds of things that you don't necessarily want on your scalp. Plus, they can be a little harsh. So, more neutral oils, things like almond oil and olive oil and such, and more exotic versions of these things. But that's all been great. It does offer temporary relief, but it doesn't last. The skin issues that I was having with the cracked fingers got worse, but I'm also better at managing it. So that's not as big of a problem. A couple of these things you can't really see now because this is healed up. There was a bit on here that was open, and I could use it. I could talk with it. It could make it speak to me. This one's a small one. I had a couple. I've one there that's healed up on my thumb, and one that's just starting on this side. And on this hand, I have a few, but many, many fewer than this. The right hand seems to get the bulk of it for whatever reason. And that's really painful, especially when they're on the fingertips and I'm typing, because obviously I type a lot, and the fingertips are very sensitive. But the worst part was actually just in picking up things. You want to hold something. Typically you want to pinch it like so, or even like that, and it became really hard. So I had to figure out new ways to kind of like not use the tips of my fingers. Opening the door, our deadbolt on the kitchen door, for instance, was pretty tricky for me. I had to try to figure out ways to grab. We have a key that locks it. Not one of those flipping switch things, but the key had to be turned, and it's small comparatively, so you have to grip it hard and turn it, and that kind of thing was becoming tricky. So adapting to that was not too difficult, but something that made me realize I have to think about every time I'm going to pick something up. I have to pause for a moment and think, what's the best way to pick this up without hurting myself? And right now, I don't have any problems because everything's currently healed or small, so I'm not dealing with any of those problems. And the thing that I attribute my current success on this to is new skin, this liquid bandage. I started doing that a couple days ago because things had gotten super bad on my right hand in particular, and every time I went to pick something up, it was just a real sensitive issue. Washing dishes wasn't so bad because I use a brush in my right hand, but I like to do dishes. It's something I'm quite good at, actually. And my wife had been saying, "Oh, you've got to stop washing dishes. The hot water is going to be too hard on your cracked fingers." And I said, "Yeah," but I adapted to that. I use this brush. I'm not even getting that hand very wet. So that wasn't an issue, but it had me thinking again, like, how many ways am I adapting and what can I do about it? And I remembered I used to have this spray bandage that I just like was an aerosol. I don't know if they sell that anymore, but I got one with a brush that I happened to pick up at the pharmacy the other day. Worked like a charm. Stings really badly when you put it on an open wound. But after a few applications of it, and I kind of reapplied several times during the day and did it for 3 days straight, and then suddenly this thing that had been open and more progressively sore for like 5 days suddenly healed up. It's great. And the other ones that I was dealing with that weren't as bad have also been healing up very nicely. So this is my new go-to. As soon as I get one that's open and hurts, and I'm not just able to treat it with a little Neosporin or Polysporin or whatever that I've been putting on initially, I will go straight to the new skin, deal with it, and it won't be a problem anymore. So it's all about adaptation, and other than that, everything's good. I feel good. I feel great. I have a lot more energy than I did before. Emotionally, I think it's been very positive for me, so I'm happy about that. And if I can just manage to now catch up with all the things that I have managed to fall further and further behind on, even in spite of feeling better, it's just constant influx of things to your desk is always a problem. But that's universal. I'm going to wind it up now. That's my recap for Gilotrif, Afetinib. Second bottle down, third bottle starting, and about a month away from getting my scans to see if this has all been worthwhile, which I'm hoping it has been. I'm really looking forward to getting news and discovering whether or not there's been a reduction in tumor size and activity that we can measure, or the opposite, and realizing this has been interesting, but now it's time to move on to something else. It's always a learning process at first, but obviously I'm hoping for a particularly good response. Because I do like the way I'm feeling now, and in spite of the visceral nature of the rash and the fact that it does itch, and it looks kind of wonky. Aside from that, got no complaints. Thank you for listening. This has been The Deep Breath. Talk to you soon.